Nightreign is one of the games of all time. It's not my favorite, it's not my least favorite. Contained within the scope of this video is the breadth of my experience with this game, currently sitting around 24 hours. In that collective day of playtime, I have defeated every Night Lord, but haven't explored every character or unique ending. And I have some thoughts. When played correctly, Nightreign is a lot of fun. Coordinating with a couple friends to execute a strategy and succeed against the considerable odds, it's exhilarating. Conversely, playing incorrectly, and there are many ways to do so, is not fun at all. If you cannot coordinate with your team, or if your coordination is lacking, you end up wasting very necessary time and can sink a run with no good way to course correct. This duality is what sets the experience of playing Nightreign so far apart from any other Souls game, or even genre-similar titles. You need to work together to succeed. Not to say that a single player of adequately high skill couldn't feasibly carry a team, but under the assumptions of the game mode and the reality of average player skill, you will succeed or fail together. This is very different from playing something like Elden Ring, where a good summon can easily walk a helpless host through even the strongest bosses with comparative ease. It's an entire staple stigma of the series at this point, where the player base is divided into people who know how to play and people who just want to win by whatever method proves most convenient. There is no convenient way to play Nightreign, or at least not one that I find especially obvious. Each character has their own strengths and weaknesses, some with clear benefits over others, but all of them will struggle to get through a 40-plus minute round in their own way. Bad RNG can ruin an otherwise perfect run, or an untimely death can push you back just far enough to steal victory. It's a hard game, and that's largely to its benefit. If the Night Lords weren't challenging under the best of circumstances, they wouldn't give you much to work toward. But it's also hard to play and prepare for fighting those Night Lords. Picking your optimal route under an intense time crunch is a skill set I've never properly developed, and Nightreign exploits that to a ruinous extent. I found myself time and again headed in the objectively wrong direction because I thought I might want something I didn't actually need, costing me precious time and inevitably the run. You get used to it and you get better, but the stress has thus far remained. And the stress, I imagine, is an integral part of the experience. It's meant to force you to make better decisions, to fight against your more leisurely instincts, and for the most part, it works. Now, I'd like to get a little more specific about the strengths and weaknesses of Nightreign's design. Big strength right up front is the characters. I'm someone who does not appreciate not being able to make my own character. It's even an outright deal breaker for me in most games. But these are good characters. Their abilities are thoughtful and diverse, and they are fun to play. I haven't gotten to really dig into most of them, but it is one of the best aspects of replayability. Another huge strength is the Night Lords. Each of them has a unique and interesting design, and each of them is a great challenge to fight. I love the bosses of this game, and I think they're some of the best in FromSoft's catalog. So that's two big wins for Nightreign that I wasn't necessarily convinced would be prior to release. Sadly, those are the only two clean and clear wins in my book. My biggest problem with Nightreign is what Nightreign is trying to be. It's a roguelite game aiming for a startlingly shallow dive into a one-note game mode. There's no room for subtlety or dynamic play. It's just a repetitive boss rush over slightly randomized versions of the same map. It's fun to do well and succeed, but it is not fun to lose. Something I have seen said and echoed myself is that Souls games aren't just teaching you how to win, they're teaching you how to lose. Nightreign isn't really a Souls game, nor is it teaching you such a lesson. It's just telling whether or not you won or lost. There are correct answers, and you can learn from defeat, but I have found that the lesson is better learned ahead of time, as the game doesn't seem interested in communicating in that fashion. Realistically, it's not something I feel especially certain about, but I think the nature of a locked-in 40-ish minute round where you lose at the end because of mistakes you didn't know you made in the first 10 minutes is one of notable flaw. You can't know if you're on track to win at the end of the night without the experience of knowing what level and gear is going to be required for the final conflict, which itself varies based on RNG and the skill levels of your team. If I'm a Great Wilder player and I've got the boss's type weakness as my preferred weapon, it doesn't mean my team is at the same level. But that uncertainty is part of the fun, absolutely. No win should ever be guaranteed, lest it ruin the point of playing. And the random nature of each playthrough's build is something the game embraces well enough. Where Nightrein's design messes with me is that just as it rewards you at random, it punishes you at random. Losing might be your fault. It might be the result of a few bad drops. But regardless, losing is a punishment, and it costs you a not insignificant amount of time. Something I've always found to be a strength of Souls games is how easy it is to re-challenge a boss. They were designed to beat you into the dirt, and you were designed to dig your way out and try again. Nightreign does the same thing, except digging your way out takes half an hour and you need 3 people. It's not awful, and when it works well, but it's not my favorite way to play a game. Anecdotally, I was fighting against one of the Night Lords and my game crashed near the end of the fight. Fortunately, I was able to reconnect in time to be saved by my teammates and win the fight, but that victory was tainted for me because I missed a couple minutes of it. I sat out on the sidelines and was functionally carried across the finish line. It wouldn't have been fair to my teammates to demand we start over, and it was perfectly fun to hurriedly rejoin the fight to get the win, but had we lost because of my disconnect, it would have meant 40 minutes of wasted time. No lesson to be learned, no way to course correct. It's just a technical issue causing tremendous disappointment. Of course, every game is vulnerable to technical issues. Nightrein's design just makes it uniquely vulnerable because of the prolonged nature of a run. Fortunately, that was the only game crash I experienced, and it didn't ruin the run, but it made me realize just how susceptible my time was to being wasted. And a lot of that waste is due to the game's total disinterest in progression. It's not an RPG, and it's not trying to be. And that's okay. It doesn't need to be an RPG to be a fun, entertaining game. It's just that without those long-form character-building mechanics, the metrics for success are narrowed. Normally, I'd expect that sort of short-term design to be complemented with highly dynamic play, but because the RNG is both widespread and extremely mundane, there's really not much of that either. Some rewards might give you a stacking effect that works great with your 3 other instances of the same buff, but that effect might just be 6% more physical damage. Undoubtedly beneficial, but it changes nothing about how you play. It just makes you deal more damage. There are buffs that give more varied effects that can change playstyle, but the inconsistency of whether or not you get one is something that stood out to me. If the point of the run is to have fun with the various drops you get, and none of them are particularly fun, it's a problem. And that's framing my Nightreign experience in a major way. The fun that you can have is dependent on a lot of metrics you don't control, meaning the game can frequently be unfun through no fault of your own. It is relying on the core mechanics being appealing enough to keep you going regardless, but I find that hard to accept when I'm playing a randomized, streamlined, stripped-down version of an existing system. And the impact of that randomness is at the forefront of the design. Almost every run I attempted with random players ended the same way. We would struggle to cohesively progress, but make it to the final night, where we would promptly lose a prolonged battle due to poor preparation. And it sucked. I did maybe 10 runs like that, and just could not get good success with randoms. Without a high level of comfort with how the game wants you to play, without the level of coordination expected, it just doesn't work. Even on the runs we did win, I found the experience frustrating. I didn't enjoy trying to lead or follow people I couldn't talk to, and that feels like a huge missed opportunity for Nightreign. That could change as I play more, but as it stands, I think Nightreign is really only meant to be played with friends. The lack of voice chat and expected team synergy make that all the more obvious. It should also be said that I don't feel I've played enough to give a definitive judgment on the game in its entirety. As the general player base improves, the design might age really well. I'm just judging it based on what I've seen. All of which highlights maybe the most crucial aspect of judging Nightreign. It's not for me. This is something I said after I played the network test, that I had fun but the design did not appeal to me. That has remained true with the full release, albeit tempered by some of the killer features. But I don't mind that it's not a game aimed at giving me what I want. That's basically every game ever made, and I'm not at all bitter. What's more important is whether or not Nightreign is for you, the person watching this video and maybe or maybe not playing Nightreign. Most of my friends have absolutely no interest in Nightreign. Some of them liked Elden Ring, some did not, but only 2 of them have bothered to play Nightreign at all. Between the 3 of us, the game doesn't reach enough special heights and manages to sink to some irritating lows, making it a questionable experience and one that we may or may not continue, each of us at a different point on that spectrum. In fact, the reason it's taken me an extra week to make this video than planned was because I just didn't want to play. I was matching with randoms, having a bad time, and not seeing much reason to force myself to play without friends. I love playing cooperatively with friends, but most of my friends don't care about Nightreign. I don't even really care about Nightreign, and I don't know that anyone else should either. That might sound harsh, but I mean it in the most passive way possible. The game is fun under the right circumstances, and is worth playing if that sounds appealing, but what it lacks makes it uncompelling in a way I would otherwise consider unplayable. Simply put, if it wasn't From Software, I wouldn't have bothered. Losing against a boss didn't make me want to jump back into the fight. It made me question whether or not it was worth it to try again at all, because getting there wasn't especially fun. The only thing to be gained is enjoyment, and when it's practically a coin toss either way, that's a risk not everyone wants to take. And the reward for winning, under the absolute best circumstances, was lesser than anything I've felt playing Elden Ring or any other Souls title. The sense of reward just isn't there when so much of what goes right or wrong is intangible. That probably speaks more to my disinterest in roguelikes broadly, and I'm sure there are plenty of people who feel diametrically opposed, but I wanted to say my piece. And it may well be the case that the better you get at the game, the more fun it is. I ended my playtime with 4 back-to-back wins playing with my brother and a series of randoms where we took on 4 different Night Lords, including the final boss. It took me about 3 hours, and it left me feeling good, if not a little indifferent. I enjoyed my time when the pieces came together, but felt I had seen what I needed to see. I'd absolutely jump back in with some friends, but I don't feel especially compelled to keep going for my own sake. Take that for what you will. So is Nightreign a success? Financially? Sure, but who fucking cares? As a game? I don't know. It's doing what it's aiming for, I think at least most of the time, so I'd say that's a fair bar to clear. It's far from the most imaginative take on the genre, and it leaves a lot to be desired, especially for a From Software title, but they have a DLC on the horizon, and I suspect a great deal to take away from the development experience for future titles. Now, I want to hear from y'all in the comments, and not just because it's been more than a month and I've missed you, though that is true. Are you playing Nightreign? Are you refusing on the reasonable grounds that it totally should have PvP, or at least some competitive mode? I want to know how the novelty of Elden Ring, again but different, is sitting with this wonderful, one-of-a-kind community. And let me know if Nightreign is something you want to see me talk more about. I have some constructive critiques, and am open to streaming it, though my initial experience has left me a little underwhelmed and unmotivated in that direction. Like the video if you're glad I didn't die over my brief hiatus, dislike the video if you wish I did, and subscribe to keep this gravy train moving. Until next time, thank you for watching.